Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything, everybody. My name is Joe Lurie, and I want to welcome you to our AMA, Ask Microsoft Anything on Windows Autopilot, as part of our March Technical Takeoff event. You know, every Monday in March, and actually there's 5 Mondays in March. For the first 4 of them, we have Tech Takeoff, several sessions, technical sessions, teaching you everything from Autopatch, Autopilot, Windows 365, all the way through everything Intune, Windows, excuse me, Windows Security, Copilot. So it's so nice to have you here. We're going to be talking about Windows Autopilot today, and I have some very special guests from the Autopilot product group. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Maggie. Maggie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Dakeva, and I'm a product manager for Windows Autopilot. Really excited to be here today and get all your hard questions. Hopefully, we can share a bit more about how we're thinking about things, and I can help answer whatever concerns you may have as well.
And with Deepika.
Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here. Myself, Deepika Vadva. I'm a group engineering manager on Intune, and I work on Windows Autopilot, among other things. Very excited to be here to hear the feedback and answer any questions that you may have about Windows Autopilot.
Great. We have a very short session, about 25 minutes long, so I'm going to get right into it. And I want to thank Ben. Ben, we saw your question a couple of days ago. Thank you for posting early. And everyone else, you can keep posting questions throughout this session, and we'll get to them as fast as we can. Ben asked, and I'm going to try to reword some of Ben's question. I don't think I'm going to read the entire question, but Ben asks, I have yet to see a single Autopilot. I'm going to actually break apart for a second. Autopilot V2, that's an internal name that we don't use officially. I will use it today because I'm reading Ben's question, but it's Autopilot Device Preparation. So Ben asks, I have yet to see a single Autopilot V2 feature that will make me suggest to anyone to migrate away from V1. It introduces more room for error, which is something I would like to expand upon if we could, Ben. If you could reply to your own answer, your own question with how it introduces room for error. But it introduces more room for error, a less streamlined experience, and reduced functionality. In other words, and I'm going to come to you first, Maggie, what are the main benefits of Autopilot Device Prep, and really, who should be using it?
Yes, thank you, Joe, and thank you, Ben. This is a great question. It's something we get asked a lot, especially with Autopilot Device Preparation being a new solution. So Autopilot Device Preparation is a re-architecture of original Autopilot, and as such, of course, we haven't reached parity yet. There's lots of features in the original Autopilot solution, but a few things that have been very core priorities for us are making sure that the experience from the start is more consistent and more reliable as well, where there are fewer errors and fewer numbers of things happening in UBI as well. We do highly encourage admins to think about what is the absolute critical things that I need to have in UBI and let the user be productive at the desktop sooner. The other major priority for us was making sure reporting is better, more accurate, real time, so the admin doesn't have to get the device physically and start getting information from there. They can access everything remotely and get all the details conveniently structured for them. From my conversations with some of our early adopters, those who don't have necessarily requirements for some of the additional modes that we have for special device types, for them, they've already started seeing some of the improvements. They've got an Autopilot Device Prep implemented and adopted within their organization way faster. There has been way fewer additional scripts and tricks and things to keep in mind as opposed to traditionally when they've done Autopilot V1. And they've started seeing that things actually do apply a bit faster. There is the benefit of enrollment time grouping, which was another priority for us to make sure there's fewer conflicts between group memberships during the onboarding experience. So it's a bit more straightforward from that point of view. We do recognize that there's still some features that provide advanced functionality, and these are absolutely on our roadmap. These are things we're thinking about and designing and building already. So I hope you'll like what you see in the next few months that we have. We have some big things brewing, and you'll start hearing a bit more about it in the next few months. Generally, if you're a new customer who has not used Autopilot at all in the past, I would say start directly with Autopilot device preparation. This is where we plan to build additional enhancements, additional feature, new value in the future. So this is your best option. For those customers who still need pre-provisioning, who still need self-deploying modes, please stay with Autopilot V1 or the existing solution we've had for a few years. This is still the best option for those scenarios, and it's still fully supported. So that's how you can approach Autopilot device prep.
Great. Thanks so much for that answer. Deepika, did you want to expand on that at all? I see you nodding along.
No, 100% agree with Maggie. I think she covered it beautifully.
Great, thanks. And while we're talking about Autopilot device prep, a question came in about why we limit the number of apps and scripts in Autopilot device prep. And I know some things in Intune, and in my role, I talk to customers about all things Intune, not just Autopilot, but including Autopilot. And sometimes the answer on why we limit is to protect the customer from themselves. We don't want them saying 50 scripts have to run before a user can see their desktop type of thing. But Deepika, why don't you share a little bit, why do we limit the number of apps and scripts applied during the out-of-box experience in Autopilot?
Absolutely. And Maggie just covered it. I'll kind of count on my fingers because that's what I kind of ground myself and my team on. We want Autopilot to be simple, fast, reliable, and observable. These are our core pillars on what we have based device preparation on. And what we want for the customers is also that their end users can get to a productive state as fast as possible, as reliably as possible. So when we put the onus on the customer to choose the most important things during this device preparation phase, we limit the choices in a way that they don't create challenges for themselves. So by limiting, they're only choosing what's most important for their end users to be productive. And then with our continuous user experience, and Maggie has spoken about this, once the user is on the desktop, the rest of the apps and policies can keep coming down on the device and they are already in a productive state. So by limiting that, that's a very important concept that we are asking customers to take a note on really what is it that they really want for the device, for the apps and policies to come down during the device preparation state and the user to get to the desktop and being productive.
For sure. And as I was saying before, and thank you for that, Deepika, I talk to customers all the time, and some of them have said to me, my end user has this one application that they use once a month, but it's critical that they use it. So it's always the first thing that they look for. And if it's not there when they first get their device, they'll call in a help desk ticket. But honestly, if it's not needed in that first hour or first week of having that device, how critical is it? And so a lot of it comes down to user expectations and user communication as well in the new, I'm going to say, new modern world of device deployment. We got this question from Mike on LinkedIn, and this is kind of a marketing question. So I'm going to read the question because it actually made me chuckle a little bit. But Mike, thanks for the question. Just to let you know, marketing does a lot of our product names. It really is. It's not really part of the product group. But I have a question. Who decided that Windows Autopilot Device Prep was a suitable name to distinguish from Windows Autopilot? Was it the same person who replaced Microsoft Teams with Microsoft Teams New? And any chance we can go back to using version numbers, please? And this is something I started off with. We don't really call it V2. We could call it Autopilot Device Prep. But Maggie, as we start talking about that, I say marketing is responsible for names, but they do work with the PG for these names. So
yes.
Without really getting into what those conversations were, how did we decide not to call it Autopilot V2?
I can share a little bit more about this. So the key piece there was we wanted to make sure we introduce this as a new solution and a new option. And we're not introducing it as stop using the old Autopilot. It sucks. It's bad. It's deprecated. That was the major thing. We wanted to be to empower customers to use them in parallel. And I can tell you, choosing a name that's descriptive enough, clear enough, keeps the Autopilot brand was a very hard task. And we ended up having lots and lots of conversations on this. In the end, we just had to settle for this is the option we're going with, and that's what it was really. But the whole thinking there was we wanted to be very careful about not positioning V1 as this legacy old thing you shouldn't use. I just said it also in answer to the first question. If you're using pre-provisioning, self-deploying mode, if you're using hybrid Autopilot, that's still what you use and that's still what we'll support. With Autopilot Device Prep, we are looking for a way to pave the path to what we see as the future optimal experience. I think as some of our investments roll out throughout this year, you will see a little bit more about that vision, and you will have a chance to maybe even try it out and see if that works and resonates better with your users. And I believe strongly it will help you move more to that North Star that we envision as well for cloud native device provisioning. So yeah, that was the main reason.
And if I could add, Joe, branding makes a lot of difference. When we call something as V1 or V2, it's really hard to highlight what is it that we are adding and why somebody should use device preparation over what was the umbrella of what people considered as Windows Autopilot. So it was very important for us to differentiate between what's existing today and why you should use the new device preparation as well. The V2 umbrella would really take away that distinction and that differentiation, in my opinion.
Thanks. And I agree. And I tell that to my customers as well. By naming it V2, we're almost implying that V1 is obsolete, and that V1 is absolutely not obsolete. So that's why we kind of didn't do a V1, V2. It makes perfect sense. So thank you for the question, and then thank you for the answers as well. All right, the next question also comes from tech community, and this is a question that we hear all the time. So thank you for posting this question as well. Are there any plans to include application installation ordering or sequencing within Autopilot, like the Configuration Manager task sequences capability? Install this app, then this app, then this app in Autopilot.
I could take that one. This is something we've discussed at length, including recently. We are always asking and trying to understand what are the major reasons why people need this functionality. From my conversations, the major reasons I've heard about is making sure there's a reliable, consistent experience and behavior during onboarding, where things won't break by installing in incorrect order. The other aspect is making sure that things happened exactly the same in your test environment as they happened for the user. Generally, our position there is we'd like to make sure we solve your business problem without introducing and just copy-pasting the functionality from ConfigMgr. And that's because the task sequencing management itself was not as easy and straightforward. As I mentioned, we're trying to make things easier for the admin and have us handle most of it. So the approach we are prioritizing there is making sure we provide more kind of implicit control over the experience. And with device preparation, actually with Autopilot device preparation, you will see that we're delivering the workloads in a controlled way, in a specific order that we've predefined. And that's so that we can optimize for reliability. That's the approach we'd like to continue forward with. We'd like to look into, can we optimize apps, make sure they're less error prone, and order of things is not necessary to be defined by the admin, as opposed to things just work. That's ultimately our goal and our North Star. Longer term, we also see the provisioning process as these are the absolute mandatory thing I need for security purposes and for compliance. Then this is the second bucket of I want to make sure these things are there for productivity for the first few hours of my user because they immediately need them. And then there's everything else that could install at its own time. It's not necessarily critical to come right at the very beginning. So that is the approach we'll be using to build the onboarding end-to-end process. And we do have some investment plans where we'll allow you to kind of split the provisioning in these stages. It won't be one by one ordering. That's not our goal and our intention, because we don't want to just rebuild task sequences as they are. We do want to make sure we still meet your business goals and business scenarios. So I'm very open to talking a bit more about this, understand what scenarios you have, and we can figure out how to best solve them. But app sequencing, as you've seen with ConfigMgr, task sequencing and app sequencing, as you've seen with ConfigMgr, is not on our roadmap at this point.
Thanks, Maggie, for that. And again, it's a common question, and we love the feedback. So continue giving us feedback, aka.ms/Intune feedback for any of that feedback, including like your specific business case for needing that app sequencing. Would love to see that. Again, that's aka.ms/Intune feedback. Thank you, our producers, for putting that on the screen. All right, we got this next question that just came in also from tech community, and this is from one of our academic customers. The vast majority of our policies and applications are deployed to devices rather than users due to us being an academic environment and us pushing policies and apps to things such as a computer lab. However, our devices are hybrid rather than Entra Joined. I know most of you here have heard me and my friend Jason Sandys and Per Larson, and we talk a lot about hybrid versus Entra Joined. And with Autopilot, we really do want you to be Entra Joined, but that's just a sidetrack. However, our devices are hybrid rather than Entra Joined. Is there a way to have Autopilot hold on the enrollment status page on the ESP for only the device flow and then go to the desktop on the user flow? Maggie?
So you should be able to remove the enrollment status page with a policy. That should be available for all flows today. To Joe's point, this is one of the scenarios that actually Autopilot Device Prep readily supports. We don't support hybrid, so it does require you to take that leap and move towards more Entra Joined devices. But it is scenarios like these where we want to make sure the user is not held hostage for hours at end. Is one of the reasons why with Autopilot Device Preparation, you only get that out-of-the-box experience, and then the user receives everything else at the desktop. Deepika, anything else you'd like to add there?
Yeah, and in case you do want to have hold your users onto the device ESP before they get onto the desktop, that is also feasible. So you will have just the regular device enrollment status page, and then you would have the rest of your policies and apps targeted to the user, and that would only come down after the user has provided their credentials and logged onto the desktop. So it's definitely doable what you're trying to do today with the traditional enrollment status pages.
Great, thanks. And I know I'm going to go to another question, and I don't remember where I saw it. I was looking on X and LinkedIn and tech community, and I saw a question that came in earlier about the device manufacturers. Today with Autopilot V1, we can have our OEMs register the devices in Autopilot. But with Autopilot Device Prep, can my device manufacturer prepare devices for Autopilot Device Prep, Deepika?
Yeah, so great question. And our device manufacturing and our OEM partners play a huge role in how device provisioning works with Windows Autopilot, what we call as V1 today. And it helps with at-scale registering of devices and making them provisioning ready. So one of the principles that we took with device preparation was to give an option to the customer where you do not really have to rely on the device provisioning process from the OEMs. Even without registration, you can set up the device preparation profile and you can start using the device prep for provisioning your devices. But definitely coming in the future, we have something on our roadmap that would enable devices and the current process to work hand in hand to enable at-scale device provisioning as well. So that's something definitely that we have looked into in seeing how can we have a seamless process where customers can use the OEM process if they want to. So both will be available.
Thanks, Deepika. And we got a follow-up question on that also about major OEMs. Are the major OEMs like Dell and HP, are they able to inject a corporate device identifier in a new format to the customer tenants like they could with the hardware hashes? So the manufacturers, can they inject those corporate identifiers?
I can share a bit more there. Right now, that's not something we've enabled. And I hear this one often, but I'd like to call out that the corporate identifiers is not an Autopilot feature. It's an enrollment feature. Right now with the OEMs, we have set up a channel where they can communicate to the Autopilot service through APIs. They can't generally and directly communicate with Intune yet. It is something we have considered, but at this point, we have not prioritized this. Part of the reason there is because for customers who typically have those engagements with the OEMs, based on feedback, it seems that they're more likely to use the new feature we have in the works. It's called device association, and it will enable OEMs to pre-upload information similarly to how they were pre-uploading like the hardware hash information for Autopilot registration.
Thanks. Thanks for that. And I know, again, my customers have asked the same thing. So they're looking forward to a point when their OEMs will be able to do all that and, just to see the growth of Autopilot device prep. All right, we have a question that came in about co-management scenarios. So with device prep, how can we smoothly transition to co-management with both Intune and Configuration Manager on the device? If we install the Config Manager agent during device prep, Configuration Manager can interfere with Autopilot in some of those scenarios. Yes. How will we be able to transition to co-management using device prep?
So the recommended way, if you do need a Config Manager client, would be to make sure it installs at the desktop after Autopilot process. Right now, with the Autopilot process, we have not enabled functionality that will ensure the Configuration Manager will install at the right place and will not interfere and cause deployment issues. It's not officially supported. We're just cloud native Intune enrollment plus Entra Joined. So the right way would be to make sure your Config Manager client installs at the desktop. And you can do that by making sure it's not one of the blocking apps during UBI.
Great. And we do have, so there's one of the deployment profiles is Autopilot into co-management. And that we've seen that in Autopilot V1. Is that something is that supported in device prep or that's not supported in device prep?
Not at this time.
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah. It would be great to get the feedback if that is really something that the customers are looking for, and then we can definitely take a look at the roadmap.
And again, we get that feedback. Because we're in the middle of an AMA, you could put the feedback right here in the AMA under that comment, or again, aka.ms Intune feedback for that feedback. All right, so our next question, we probably have time for one or two more questions. If I have a dynamic group that targets all Autopilot enrolled devices and I assign apps to that group, why is it that the total number of apps vary when performing pre-provisioning? In other words, if I have 15 apps assigned, but the pre-provisioning process shows the progress, the pre-provisioning process shows the progress of either 2 or 8 apps being installed. Why does that vary? Deepika?
It's a great question, and without divulging a lot of the architecture behind, I would say that Intune is a cloud service, and there are a lot of things that are done asynchronously. Now, depending on what the configuration was, there are a number of things that can happen. When the apps are getting assigned, are there dependent apps? Are there superseding apps? What is it that the priority of the apps coming down are? So during pre-provisioning, the process would look for what's the absolute of all the rules that have been configured pre-app assignment and post-app install scripts and whatnot, and the dependency supersedence that has been defined. And it would come up with the list of apps that the process actually needs to track. Now, with dynamic groups also, there's another level of calculation that happens behind the scenes, and they are constantly getting updated whether new users are entering or new devices are entering or exiting, and that calculation can at runtime, whatever that calculation is sent to the pre-provisioning process, it's going to take that construct and then try to determine what is it that it needs to do on the device. So while we don't expect that to be the case always, and if there's a specific case that you are seeing where all your expected apps are not there, definitely provide us the feedback so that we can look into that. But what we expect is based on your configuration at runtime, it's going to make a calculation of what is it that the determinate set of apps that needs to be installed during pre-provisioning, and then it would track those to completion. So it comes down to all that calculation and configuration being done at the admin's end.
Great, that makes sense. I guess I was wrong. We didn't have time for a few more questions. That was our last question. It goes by so fast. We need these to be like an hour, 2 hours long. It goes by too fast. I'd love to get some closing thoughts. So I'm going to go backwards this time. Deepika, any closing thoughts you have for our audience?
No, just amazed and very thankful for the support from this community. Please keep the feedback coming. Post SFI, we are living in a different world, so security plays a huge role in how we build products and what we build. So definitely that's top of mind for both Maggie and myself, and just appreciate all the support and feedback coming our way. Thank you.
Thanks, Deepika. Maggie.
Thank you, everyone, for the great questions. Hopefully this was useful. We shared some information that's going to be valuable for you. Just wanted to also make sure I mentioned, don't miss out the Windows management session that we have. It is going to include some more information about Autopilot device preparation, and some of our future investments. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And again, I'm Joe Lurie. Thank you so much. We have coming up next the AI-powered admin, emerging trends in endpoint management. You can catch that at aka.ms/AI-powered admin. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope to see you soon.